The Super 10 of North American Big Game has become the most popular award within the Grand Slam Club Ovis family of SlamQuest, and rightfully so. To accomplish the Super 10, one must do a lot of big game hunting in many different parts of North America. Furthermore, one must hunt not only the mountain species, but the broad range of antlered game, and yes, the big predators too. We're proud to have introduced the Super 10 milestone to big game hunters, and are excited to be able to recognize so many tonight. We'll be breaking these Super 10 holders into groups, so please hold your applause until everyone in each group has been introduced. As your name is called, please quickly make your way to the stage. Now for our first group. Arkansas's Reggie Cullum's list of trophies dates back to the mid-1970s. In fact, he reached the three-quarter slam in 1980 and did not complete his Grand Slam number 1722 until 2012. He did that with a desert bighorn from Mexico. Much was the same for the other North American species on Reggie's Super 10 list. His Alaska Yukon moose and barren ground caribou were taken on the same trip back in 1976. Fast forward to the present, and you'll find Reggie's three most recent trophies that got him to the Super 10 mark. They include a Nevada cougar, taken in February 2013, an American mountain goat from Alaska, taken in September 2013, and Reggie completed his Super 10 in November 2014 with a muskox. Bob DeHataway of Delaware has been a great supporter of GSCO for several years. When we began the Super 10 program back in 2009, Bob was one of the first people to document his trophies. The problem was, his cougar was actually a puma from Argentina and wouldn't qualify. We informed Bob of this, and he immediately began making plans to hunt a North American mountain lion. He traveled to BC shortly after our last convention in February 2014 and was finally able to complete his Super 10 with a great cat. Along the way, Bob took some exceptional trophies, including a Montana bison from 1998, a Coues deer from Mexico in 2008, an amazing mountain caribou in 2013, and his most recent trophy, a polar bear, taken in April 2014. Like many of our other members, Mark Farnham of North Dakota completed his Super 10 with a mountain lion he took in January 2014 on a hunt in British Columbia. Mark actually needs only one more trophy to reach the Super 25, and we suspect Mark has his sights set on that milestone. Backing up a bit, Mark took an impressive 7x7 Rocky Mountain elk from Nevada in 2002. His South Dakota bison and Sitka blacktail from Alaska both came in 2004. And the following year, Mark got a Shiras moose in Colorado, and will finish up with Mark's mule deer taken in 2009. It was a muskox from NWT that completed the Super 10 for Anthony Glasso of Pennsylvania back in August 2014. You'll see from the photos that Anthony enjoys hunting with both his rifle and archery equipment. Anthony arrowed a mountain goat in Alaska 2009 and took a great Canada moose from BC the following year in 2010. Anthony hunted mountain caribou in July 2012 and not only took a fine bull but shot a gorgeous hunting photo as well. And finally you see Anthony's cougar, which he took with his bow in 2013. Bill Homan of Pennsylvania is a relatively new member of the GSCO family, but you'll see from the photos that he fits right in. One of Bill's earliest documented North American trophies is a heavy antlered whitetail from Saskatchewan taken in 1997. Bill hunted Alaska's North Slope back in September 2002 and connected on a great bull caribou. Next, we'd like to show you Bill's Columbia black-tailed deer from Oregon taken in 2006, and then comes Quebec Labrador caribou from 2008. And we'll finish up with the animal that completed Bill's Super 10, an American mountain goat from Alaska in November 2013. Bill is up to 20 different species on the Super Slam list, with the Super 25 on the horizon. Next up for the Super 10 award is Greg Masini of Massachusetts. One of Greg's early trophies was a mountain lion that he took in Montana in December 1995. Moving on to the 2000s, you see that Greg arrowed a big bison in 2002. Next, we want to show you three of Greg's deer species. In October 2008, Greg connected on a great Massachusetts whitetail. The following year, he got a mule deer in Colorado, and in November 2011, he took a Sitka blacktail in Alaska. We want to finish up with a trophy that got Greg to the Super 10 mark, an Alaska Yukon moose taken from the Yukon in August 2012. It's a real pleasure to report that the next Super 10 goes to long-term GSCO member Robert E. Mays Jr. of Nevada. We can prove Bob's longevity with SCO because of his Grand Slam number of 680 completed back in 1996. Looking at Bob's list, we count 19 different trophies dating back to the 1980s. However, it was a muskox from Greenland that actually got the job done for Bob in August 2014. Even though he already had 3 other caribou, Bob also got the Central Canadian variety there on that Greenland hunt as well. You've been seeing some great trophies already, but his big cougar was taken in December just before last year's convention, and of course it was taken right here in his home state of Nevada. Congratulations, Bob, on yet another milestone in your extensive hunting career. We are pleased to now recognize John Monson of New Hampshire for completing his Super 10 in October 2014 after taking a Rocky Mountain elk in Colorado. He hunted southern Alberta in November 2010 to get his exceptional mule deer. John is an avid mountain hunter and has not neglected those species either. He completed his Grand Slam number 1662 with a California bighorn from BC in 2011. And finally, we'd like to show you John Cyrus Moose from southern Alberta, taken in September 2014. It was interesting to see the way George Rasband of Utah submitted the documentation for his Super 10. He said, "I want to celebrate my 55-year milestone begun in 1959 and completed in 2014. That beginning in 1959 was with a Utah mule deer, but we don't have a great photo to represent it. However, considering that George has been a guide and specialized in hound hunting for bears and cougars, we start out with a photo of him, a pair of his dogs, a hunter, and a bear. A couple of years ago, we honored George for Grand Slam number 1699. And the next photo you saw was his stone sheep that completed that slam. We also picked a photo of George and his American mountain goat to show. His excellent Alaska Yukon moose from 2014 was in the mix of photos you've seen as well. However, we'll finish up with George's Super 10 trophy, which is a barren ground caribou from Alaska taken in September 2014. George certainly managed to finish up with an amazing trophy to complete his 55-year quest. Our next Super 10 holder to recognize is Milton Schultz of Texas, who is a long-term GSCO member. Milton's a proud University of Texas fan, and he wears his lucky orange toboggan on the majority of his hunts, which you can see in these photos. He completed the Super 10 in September 2011 with an Alaska Yukon moose from NWT. Milton's very first trophy on the list was a pronghorn from his home state of Texas, taken back in 1987. Moving along, Milton got an American mountain goat from BC in 1991, a bison from Alaska in 2002, and in April 2007, he traveled to Nunavut for the polar bear. Many of Greg Shuttleworth's trophies have been taken self-guided, and he holds the distinction of having taken all of them in Canada. As a British Columbia resident, Greg has ample hunting opportunities available to him. His 2000 mule deer and 2001 Rocky Mountain bighorn were, in fact, taken in BC. In 2003, Greg traveled to NWT and took a mountain caribou. He stayed in BC for his 2010 cougar hunt, and in 2012, Greg took an antelope in Alberta. The animal that completed the Super 10 for Greg was a muskox from Nunavut, which he got in August 2014. That completes our first group of Super 10 holders. Please make your way to the stage quickly. We have a treat to begin our second group. We want to recognize a father and son team for both completing a Super 10. Larry and Brian Smith of Colorado get to do the majority of their hunting together, as evidenced by the trophy photos you're seeing on the screen. Brian took his home state antelope in October 2009, and Larry's buck came in 2010. Next for Brian is a self-guided mule deer, taken in 2010, and Larry took his mule deer from the same area in 2011. Later that same year in December, both men took cougars on another hunt in Colorado. In 2012, Larry and Brian traveled to Alaska's Wrangell Mountains and were both successful on Alaska Yukon moose. Brian was also able to get a Rocky Mountain elk that same year on a self-guided hunt. Next, we'll show you Larry's barren ground caribou from Alaska, taken in August 2014, And we'll finish up with both Brian and Larry's Colorado Bison taken in January 2014. Those two bulls simultaneously completed the Super 10 milestone for this father-son hunting team. James Steward of Alberta has completed the Super 10 of North American Big Game, but he's actually only 2 animals away from the Super 25. According to our records, one of James' earliest trophies is a Rocky Mountain elk from BC taken in 1991. Moving along, 1994 was a great year for James in that he took a polar bear, muskox, and Central Canadian barren ground caribou in that year. Fast forwarding to the present, you'll see James with his Arizona Coues deer and Thule elk from California, both taken in 2014. Good luck on your quest for the Super 25, James. That completes Group 2. Again, please make your way to the stage quickly. The final group of Super 10 recipients have all completed this great milestone by using the bow and arrow method. It was a Central Canadian barren ground caribou from NWT that got Joel Maxfield of Wisconsin started on his archery Super 10 quest, according to our records. He took that bull back in September 1999. Joel traveled to Idaho in 2005, where he arrowed a chocolate-colored black bear. Next up for Joel is a pair of mountain trophies taken on the same trip to BC in August 2012. First, he took an American mountain goat, which made the cover of the summer 2014 issue of SlamQuest. Then a couple of days later, Joel connected on a huge mountain caribou in full velvet. We doubt Joel's 2013 Kansas whitetail was his first, but it's the one he sent in to represent that species, and what a fine buck it is. Joel completed his archery Super 10 in January 2014 with a Colorado cougar, and he's actually up to 17 different trophies on the Super Slam list. One of his most recent is a woodland caribou that he arrowed in Newfoundland in November 2014. For those of you who may not know, Joel works for Matthews Incorporated, and they've been a diamond-level sponsor of GSCO's convention for several years, and we're thankful for their continued support. Congratulations, Joel. Scott Meszaros of Colorado has accomplished a pretty amazing feat. We're recognizing him tonight for the Archery Super 10, but the real amazing part is that 9 of his 10 trophies were taken in his home state of Colorado. The caribou was the only species not available for Scott to hunt there, and the only one that he lacked for the Super 10. He traveled to Nunavut in September 2014 and arrowed a Central Canadian barren ground caribou to complete the Archery Super 10. You've been seeing some of Scott's other trophies on the screen, and they include a whitetail from 2003, an American mountain goat taken in 2005, a black bear from 2007, a pronghorn from 2009, and a great bison taken in 2012. And remember, all from Colorado. The next person to recognize for an Archery Super 10 is Tony Mudd from right here in Reno. We actually have Tony down for 23 trophies toward the Super Slam, as he's been a prolific archery hunter for many years. According to our records, it was probably a bison from Utah in 2011 that completed Tony's Super 10. He has 3 of the 4 bears, the cougar, all the deer, 2 of the elk with multiples of the Rocky Mountain variety, all the moose, the mountain goat, pronghorn, and has registered Grand Slam number 1324, the 24th archer to do so. That should give you a good idea of Tony's extensive archery career. David Pierce of Wisconsin only needed a moose to reach the Archery Super 10. In September 2014, he arrowed the fine Alaska Yukon bull in NWT you've been seeing on the screen to reach that milestone. One of his earliest trophies was a self-guided Wyoming antelope taken in October 1990. David hunted in Arizona in September 2005 and took a 6x6 Rocky Mountain elk. In 2011, David did a multi-species hunt in NWT and arrowed both a mountain caribou and the impressive doll ram that you see here. We already mentioned David's Alaska Yukon moose taken in 2014, but he harvested another tremendous trophy earlier that year as well. You see him here with a great North Dakota bison taken in January 2014 from the Fort Berthold Indian Reservation. We certainly hope you've enjoyed this year's Super 10 Awards and the way we've honored all those who've accomplished this amazing milestone. Let's give them all one big last round of applause.